The Galactic Combat Academy was one of the brightest places in the system. Its tall towers shined with blue lights, its training grounds stretched like metal fields, and young fighters from every world arrived each year with only one dream: to prove they were strong. Among these elites, two small alien twins walked quietly through the halls. Their names were Rylan and Sierra. They came from the gentle race called the Velyari, a species known for soft voices and peaceful hearts, not for battle. Because of this, other students did not take them seriously. When the twins moved through the corridors, students whispered. When they stepped into training rooms, people sighed loudly. Nobody believed they would last long in the academy, and certainly nobody believed they could win the upcoming tournament trials. Most students thought they would fail even before the first match began. The twins knew this. They heard every laugh, every joke, every loud comment. But still, they didn't give up. The reason they came all the way from their quiet world was simple. Their planet had been called weak for generations. Their people had been ignored in diplomatic meetings. They wanted to show the galaxy that calm did not mean powerless, and that quiet did not mean helpless. But dreams alone were never enough. Training at the academy was hard. Every day, Rylan and Sierra stood among fighters much taller and much stronger. Their bodies were thin, their arms light, and their species had no natural armor. Their style of movement was different from the academy's combat methods. The instructors never gave them extra attention because the classes were too large. Students pushed ahead, competing for the best scores. The twins were always at the back, trying to copy moves that did not match their bodies. That was how their days passed, struggling, sweating, hoping, and failing. But when the sun in the sky began to set and the academy lights dimmed, another story began. At night, when other students returned to their dorms to talk and rest, the twins did not stop. They quietly left their room and slipped into the empty training halls. The halls were almost always silent at night, except for one person who stayed behind every day. His name was Evan. He was a human janitor at the academy, wearing a simple gray uniform, pushing a quiet cleaning machine across the floors. He was not important in the academy. He had no rank, no title, and no special skills, at least not in the eyes of others. Students barely noticed him. Some even walked past him as if he was not there. Evan never complained. He liked his peaceful job. He liked seeing young fighters train and grow. But he also noticed things others did not. One evening, as he was cleaning the South Training Hall, he heard soft noises. At first he thought it was the cleaning machine or maybe the air vents. Then he heard the same sound again, the light slap of small feet, the gentle tap of hands, and a quiet breath. He followed the sound and found the twins there trying to train alone. They stood in the center of the empty room, copying movements from memory. They tried to strike the practice dummy, but often missed. They attempted footwork drills, but fell out of balance. Their faces showed frustration, but not anger. More like sadness. Evan leaned on his mop and watched for a moment. He was not supposed to interrupt anyone, but he felt something pull him forward. So he stepped toward them. The twins froze, thinking they had broken a rule. Rylan lowered his eyes while Sierra stepped slightly in front of him. Evan gave a warm smile. "I'm not here to stop you. I just want to ask something. Why are you training at this hour?" Sierra looked unsure if she should speak, but her voice finally rose. "We need more practice. We want to join the tournament trials, but we are not strong enough." Evan nodded slowly. "You're working hard. That's good. But I noticed something. Your feet are moving too far apart. That makes you lose balance." The twins exchanged surprised looks. A janitor giving fighting advice? But he continued. "Try standing a little closer. Like this." He demonstrated with simple, careful steps. "Your bodies are light. Use that. Move faster, not wider." The twins repeated the pose, and suddenly it felt easier. Their balance improved. Evan nodded again, pleased. From that night onward, a new routine formed. Every evening, when the halls emptied, Evan stayed a little longer. He cleaned faster so he could watch the twins train. He didn't teach them advanced combat. He didn't know the Academy's complex fighting techniques, but he understood how people learned. He could see where they struggled. He could tell when a movement was too forced or too slow, so he helped them in small ways, fixing their footwork, showing them how to breathe properly, helping them learn timing. These lessons were simple, but to the twins, they were like opening a door to a new world. For the first time since joining the Academy, someone believed they could become better. Someone took the time to help them, and not someone famous or powerful, but a human janitor who saw something others ignored. Days turned into weeks. The twins grew faster, stronger, and more confident. Their movements became smooth and connected. They learned to use their small size to dodge attacks easily. They learned to stay calm and patient. And most importantly, they learned to move as one. Rylan and Sierra had always been close, but now their teamwork became almost perfect. Evan often told them, "You two don't fight alone. You fight together. That is your power." But the Academy was not a place full of kindness. Other students eventually noticed that the twins were training harder. One afternoon in the main hall, a tall, horned student laughed when he saw their names on the trial entry list. "You two? Entering the tournament trials? You won't last 1 minute." The other students joined in the laughter. Some shook their heads as if it was foolish. Others simply looked away as though the twins were invisible. The twins felt a heavy sadness that night. When Evan found them, they were repeating the same move again and again, but without their usual energy. Their shoulders were low and their eyes lacked the quiet brightness they always had. "What happened?" Evan asked gently. Rylan hesitated. "Everyone says we will fail. They think we don't belong here." Evan thought for a moment. Then he sat on the floor beside them, crossing his legs. "I want to tell you something I learned a long time ago. Many people will judge you before they know you. Many will say you cannot win, but their words cannot control your future. Only your effort can." Sierra looked at him closely. "But we are small. We are not strong." Evan nodded. "Maybe you are not strong in the way they expect, but strength is not only muscle. Strength is heart. Strength is trust. Strength is the courage to keep going when others laugh. You two have something rare. You fight as one. That can beat anyone if you believe in it." The twins looked at each other. Their spirits lifted a little. They trained again with more focus. Evan watched them and felt proud. He never thought helping them would matter so much, but now he wanted to see them win as badly as they did. Finally, the last night before the trials arrived. The Academy halls were quieter than usual, as if holding its breath for the coming competition. The twins practiced one final time with Evan. Their steps were aligned, their strikes sharp, their coordination almost perfect. When they finished, they stood in front of Evan, breathing deeply. "You did well," he said. "Remember, the trials are not won by fear. They are won by clear minds. Trust yourselves. Trust each other." Rylan stepped forward. "Thank you. Nobody helped us before, but you did. We will try our best." Evan gave a small smile. That's all anyone can do. When the twins left to rest, Evan cleaned the hall slowly. He felt a strange mix of pride and worry. He knew the trials would be tough. The other fighters were skilled and confident. But he also knew the twins had something special that could not be taught in classrooms. They had heart. They had unity. And that could surprise everyone. The next morning, the Galactic arena shined under thousands of lights. Students from every class filled the stands, cheering and talking excitedly. Instructors sat in the high seats, ready to judge the matches. The tournament trials were the biggest event of the Academy. Winning even one round earned respect. Reaching the final round was a dream only a few students ever achieved. The twins stepped into the arena gates. Their hands were slightly shaking, but their eyes were focused. They remembered Evan's words. They remembered the long nights of training. They remembered the idea that they were stronger together than anyone knew. Behind the arena wall, Evan stood in a small service corridor. Janitors were not allowed in the main seats, but he found a spot where he could watch through a narrow viewing window. His heart was beating almost as fast as theirs. When the twins walked onto the arena floor, the crowd went almost silent for a moment. Some students whispered again. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Some even smiled in a mocking way, thinking the first match would be quick. But the twins did not hear those voices. They only heard each other's breathing. They only felt the calm they had practiced so many nights. The first opponent emerged from the opposite gate, a tall reptilian student with green scales and sharp eyes. He looked down at the twins with a confident smirk. Everyone thought the match would end in seconds, but inside the twins' hearts, a small flame burned. A flame that Evan helped them build. And with that quiet fire inside, the trials began. The arena lights grew brighter as the announcer's voice echoed across the massive space. The reptilian fighter stepped forward with heavy steps that made the ground shake. His wide shoulders rose and fell with each deep breath. His eyes were sharp, full of confidence, and full of the same disbelief everyone else had. The idea that two small alien twins were standing across from him as his challengers. Rylan and Sira did not step back. Their bodies were small, but their eyes were steady. They positioned themselves side by side, just like they had practiced every night. The crowd watched closely, expecting them to make one mistake that would end the match immediately. The horn sounded. The reptilian fighter rushed toward them like a moving wall. His powerful arm swung through the air in a fast arc that would easily knock a larger opponent to the ground. But the twins moved. It was not a wild jump or a desperate dive. It was smooth, practiced, and almost graceful. Rylan moved first, stepping lightly to the left. Sira stepped to the right at the same time. The reptilian fighter's strike hit nothing but air. He stumbled slightly from the force of his own strength. The crowd made a surprised noise. Rylan darted forward and tapped the reptilian's leg with a fast strike. It did not hurt him, but it made him lose balance again. Sira spun behind him and used the soft touch technique Evan had helped them understand. She hit a weak point behind his knee, and his leg bent for just a moment. The reptilian fell forward. It was not a hard fall, but it was enough. The twins moved together like a single person, coming around him, striking lightly but quickly at the points they practiced every night in the empty hall. The reptilian fighter tried to rise, growling from surprise more than pain. But the twins were already ahead of him. They landed two more fast strikes that made him lose balance again. His knees touched the ground first, then his fists, then his head. The crowd went silent. The match judge looked at the fallen fighter, then at the twins, then raised his hand. Winner, Rylan and Sira. A wave of shocked gasps rolled through the arena. The twins had won the first round. Even the instructors looked surprised. The reptilian fighter stood slowly, still confused by what had happened. He gave a small nod to the twins, almost a sign of respect. The twins bowed politely in return. In the service corridor, Evan's heart was pounding. A smile slowly formed on his face. He had believed in them, but seeing them succeed with his own eyes felt unreal. He exhaled a long breath he didn't know he'd been holding. The next rounds came quickly. The second match was against a pair of insectoid fighters known for fast attacks. They moved like lightning, striking in many directions at once. But the twins stayed calm. They used controlled steps, dodging instead of blocking. Their small size helped them slip under attacks that would have hit any other fighter. They did not try to overpower their opponents. They used patience, timing, and teamwork. Rylan waited for tiny openings. Sira used her light movements to distract the insectoid pair. At the perfect moment, They used a combined push-and-pull technique Evan showed them to shift their opponents off balance. One insectoid stumbled into the other. The twins took advantage and delivered clean, soft strikes that made both insectoids fall at the same time. Again, the judge raised his hand. Winner, Rylan and Sira. More cheers spread through the arena. The crowd was no longer silent. Some students who had laughed at them earlier were now leaning forward with real interest. Every time the twins stepped out for another match, more eyes followed them. Evan watched all of this from the back corridors. His hands were shaking, but not from fear. They were shaking from joy. Every move the twins made reminded him of the nights they practiced until they were exhausted. It reminded him of the times they fell and stood up again. It reminded him of the quiet belief they carried even when everyone doubted them. The third and fourth rounds came with even stronger opponents. One was a massive, stone-skinned fighter whose punches cracked the ground. The twins used fast spins to avoid him. He tried to grab them, but they slipped out of reach like flowing water. When he became tired from swinging too much, the twins struck pressure points behind his elbow joints. His arms weakened just enough for them to guide him into a controlled fall. Another opponent was a floating psychic student who used mental waves to push enemies away. Evan had warned the twins about this kind of fighter. He told them to keep their minds calm and their focus steady. They remembered his advice. They closed their eyes for a moment before the match started. When the waves came at them, they held their ground, moving slowly and evenly. The psychic could not break their balance because their hearts were strong and steady. They reached him with slow, gentle steps and lightly tapped his shoulder in a technique that required precision instead of power. The psychic lost concentration, slipped, and hit the ground. The judge again raised his hand. Winner, Rylan and Sira. By now, the arena was full of loud cheers. Students shouted their names. Teachers nodded with interest. Even the academy commander leaned forward, trying to study the style the twins used. But the final round was different. It was not just another skilled fighter. The last opponent was the strongest trainee in the academy, a tall humanoid warrior named Draven. His family came from a long line of champions. He was known for his power, discipline, and near-perfect control. He stepped onto the battlefield with a calm expression that showed confidence but not arrogance. He looked at the twins with a focused gaze, as if he respected their unexpected rise but still believed he would win. The arena grew quiet again as the final match was announced. The twins stood across from Draven, feeling the weight of every eye watching them. Their hands were slightly shaking, but their breaths were even. They remembered every word Evan had spoken, every correction he made, every encouragement he gave. They were not alone. Even from far away, they knew he was watching. The horn sounded. Draven moved almost faster than the eye could see. He appeared in front of Rylan with a powerful strike. But Rylan had learned from all the previous rounds. He bent backward, letting the strike pass above him. Sira dashed to the side, trying to flank Draven, but Draven turned with perfect timing and blocked her approach. The crowd gasped. This match was different. Draven was not fooled by their movements. He was reading them, adapting to them. The twins circled around him, looking for an opening. Draven stepped slowly, watching both at once. His calm eyes showed that he had trained for years, and his skill was no accident. The twins exchanged a quick glance. They needed to use everything. They stepped forward together, performing fast double attacks they had practiced with Evan. Draven blocked both strikes effortlessly. He reached out and tapped Rylan lightly on the shoulder. It was not enough to hurt, but it pushed him off balance. Rylan stumbled backward. Sira rushed forward to cover him. But Draven gently shifted his foot and blocked her again. He was strong, but he was also controlled and respectful. He did not mock them or underestimate them. He simply fought with truth. Rylan regained his balance. The twins circled again. Sweat formed on their foreheads. Evan watched from the corridor, gripping the railing tightly. He whispered, "Come on, you know what to do." The twins closed their eyes for a single heartbeat. Then they moved. This time their steps were softer, lighter, almost silent. They did not attack with strength. They flowed around Dravon like two small streams of water moving around a large rock. Their movements became unpredictable. Dravon stepped backward for the first time. His eyes narrowed with concentration. Sira moved behind him, Rylan in front. They began a mirrored pattern Evan had helped them build. It involved stepping in rhythm, striking in opposite directions, and turning at the same moment. Draven blocked Rylan's strike, but Sira struck at a different angle. He turned to block Sira, but Rylan moved in again. For a moment, Dravon lost his steady ground. The twins saw their chance. They performed their strongest twin movement, a spiraling double strike that landed softly on Dravon's chest and shoulder. It was not painful, but it tilted his balance. Dravon tried to correct his stance, but the twins moved too quickly. They pushed him gently, but strongly enough to complete the pattern. Dravon fell to one knee. The arena exploded with sound. The crowd roared louder than at any moment before. Dravon looked up at the twins, then slowly smiled, a small but honest smile. He nodded once, showing respect. The judge looked at the scene, then raised his hand for the final time. Winner, Rylan and Sira. The arena thundered with applause. Students stood up. Teachers clapped. Even the academy commander rose from his seat. The twins looked around, overwhelmed. Their eyes shined with disbelief. They had won. They had actually won. Suddenly, the head instructor spoke loudly. "Who trained these two?" The arena quieted again. Everyone looked around. The twins looked at each other, then turned toward the service corridor. Rylan raised his hand and pointed. The crowd's eyes followed the direction. There stood Evan, half hidden behind a metal doorway, unsure if he should step forward. His uniform was simple. His hands were rough from work. He was just a janitor to them. But in that moment, he was more. The head instructor called out, "Step forward, human." Evan hesitated, then slowly walked onto the arena floor. The crowd whispered in shock. Some could not believe it. Others stared with wide eyes. Rylan and Sira ran to him and stood proudly beside him. Sira said in a clear voice, "He helped us. He believed in us." Rylan added, "We could not have won without him." The head instructor looked at Evan carefully, studying his calm face, then nodded. "You have done something extraordinary. You have seen what others ignored. You have helped where others did not. From this day forward, you are no longer only a janitor." Evan blinked in surprise. The head instructor continued, "You are now an advisor of training development." The crowd cheered again. Evan felt emotion rise in his chest. He looked at the twins, both smiling widely. He placed a gentle hand on their shoulders. "You did it," he said softly. Rylan shook his head. "We did it." Sira nodded. "Together." The arena lights glowed like stars above them as the cheers continued. And in that moment, everyone in the academy finally understood something important. Greatness can come from anyone, even from those the world never notices. And the twins, once ignored, now stood in the center of the arena as champions, with the human who believed in them standing proudly by their side.